Yo, 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 what's up? So we're sitting here at the office at the Mindside having a little conversation about coaching philosophies because I stayed up late last night watching a truly heartbreaking loss by my LSU baseball Tigers. And I say truly heartbreaking because I feel for the kids that lost in that game. Devin Fontenot absolutely balled out, threw some of the best relief, followed the game before by Todd Peterson's unbelievable relief, and they lost. All right, listen, I'm going to get blackballed in Baton Rouge. You know why they lost? Because there's no coaching philosophy in place. Sorry, it's a recruiting philosophy. No development happening. And so it got us fired up here at the office about what it takes. Back in January, I went and spoke at the American Baseball Coaches Association meeting about this very topic, and I want to share some of that guidance with you. So whether you're a golf coach, baseball coach, whether you're a parent, whoever you are, I want to help you with coaching philosophy. Look, I know I talk about him all the time, but there's a reason why when I say I played for one of the best coaches to ever coach a sport in Skip Bertman, there's a reason, okay? Because he had a philosophy. He had a system in place. He had a program that we followed from the time we entered the program to the time we left. From the time he started in coaching in 1985 to the day he retired in 2001 or 2, whenever it was, there was a system that was in place, and it was molded and developed. And too many coaches are caught up on the talent of their players, hiding their philosophy. Their philosophy is let the players play, and there's no development. And when somebody does something good, you take credit for it, and when they don't do good, then all of a sudden it's because of some other reason. And that's hogwash. Wherever you coach, whoever you are, doesn't matter what level, whether you coach peewee or you coach professionals, you have to have a philosophy that guides the development of your program and your philosophy of how you develop players. It has to be there. And if it is not there, coaches, I want you to hear this one point right now. If you don't have your philosophy written down, you're failing your players. You're failing. And I can guarantee you, those listening to this, and every time I give this talk for coaches, less than 10% of the coaches have their philosophy written down. You know what that tells me? You're winging it. That tells me that you're flying by the seat of your pants. That each and every day you are allowing yourself to be a victim and being played by the circumstances around you. I hope that pisses you off. But I hope it forces you to look in the mirror and realize that if your philosophy is not written down, how can you ensure that you're being consistent to every person that you're helping? Now, I'm not saying Paul Mainieri doesn't have a coaching philosophy. What I'm actually saying is I just didn't agree with a lot of the decisions that he made. Okay, that's not here for there, but you make that kind of money, you open yourself up for that style of criticism. But why do certain coaches continue to win? Why do we see the same programs? See, coaches that don't succeed can look across the street at a coach that's succeeding and go, well, it's because they get the best players. It's because they have better scholarship opportunities. We used to hear that at LSU all the time. It's because Skip can put players and just have 50 players on his roster. Really? We won the national title in 91. I think we had 36. I think the roster limits today are 35. It's not harder to win now. It's always hard to win. But it's impossible to win if you don't have a philosophy that's written down and developed. Why is Chick-fil-A? Why is Ruth Chris? Why is Ritz-Carlton so good? Because there's a way that they do business that every person, every manager, every supervisor, every director follows. If you ask people from Disney, what's the Disney way? They'll tell you the 10-step process or 8-step process, whatever it is. I'm not a part of it, so I don't know it. But I can guarantee if I ask anybody who's been a cast member at Disney, they can tell you. So coaches, why don't you have your stuff written down? Why don't you know? Because that's the issue. See, you don't know. You don't really know what makes you better. You don't really know what makes your players better. Do you have your developmental plan written down to make you better? Are you still winging that too? Do you have a plan of books you're going to read, people you're going to call in the industry, people you're going to call outside the industry to make you better? Do you have information in place that's your go-to when a player is struggling, that you can give them some resources and say, hey, look, 8 years ago, I had a player going through very much the same thing that you are. Here's something that I would suggest that you do. Or do you just wing it? I know that's kind of a harsh statement to say, but coaches, don't play hunches. Don't. Play educated guesses and make strategic decisions based on your philosophy. So how do we get a philosophy in place? Where do we even start? I tell you what, it's the summer right now. Here's what you do. You go get an 8.5 by 11 pack of paper, printer paper. That's fancy. Guess what? We're going to develop one here that's going to blow your mind, okay? But we're going to start with the low-key approach. And you get a pen, and you go to a coffee shop, go to a wine bar, you go somewhere, and you sit down and you say at the top of the paper, ready for this? Okay, this is big science. What is my philosophy? And you start writing everything down. If you're a golf coach, what is your philosophy about the swing? What is your philosophy about putting stroke? What is your philosophy about game management? What is your philosophy about developing junior players? What is your philosophy about overcoming difficulty? What is your philosophy on how to deal with general managers? What is your philosophy about how to raise money? What is your philosophy on tournament stress and anxiety? What is your philosophy about dealing with somebody like me? If you're a college golf coach, what is your philosophy about dealing with swing coaches, putting coaches, physios, mental coaches? Or are you just going to wing it? I know you're not going to wing it. So let's get a plan in place. If you're a baseball coach, what is your recruiting philosophy? How do you deal with your fundraisers? How do you deal with a first and third and nobody out? What is your philosophy there? How do you deal with pitchers who have arm soreness? And how do you deal with catchers that can't throw? How do you deal with late inning decisions? And what philosophy and strategies you're going to put in place? So you put out that piece of paper and you just put headings up that are important to you. And you ask yourself those questions and you write them down. And it doesn't have to be correct right out of the gate. Like, if you're a player, you should have a philosophy too. But we'll do that in the future. But as a coach, you should have everything written down. What you do is you take some time. Like, are you worth the 72-hour investment? Seriously. Are you worth the time for you to be a 72-hour investment in making you better? Well, if you don't do it, then you're saying you're not worth it. And you're winging it. You got to sit down and write everything down. And then you take all that information and you review it. And you start sparsing it together. And you start cleaning up some things. You say, you know what, I'm a little confused here about this. And I'm going to take that information and I'm going to make it better. Oh, yeah, I remember a book I read. I did a podcast Friday with Cliff Sims, who wrote Team of Vipers. And he was inside the Trump White House for 500 days. And he shared a story from General Mattis, General Mattis, who was Secretary of Defense. And everywhere he went on his post, his 7,000 books came with him. And the reason for that was that in his mind, he had never lost a battle in the military. And his thought process was, when he went to a new post, and he went to Iraq, or he went to Africa, or he went to Europe, and he was in uncertain areas, there was somebody in one of those books that had been in a similar situation as him. So why do we have to reinvent the wheel? As coaches, we don't need to reinvent every single day. In fact, Nick Saban doesn't do anything fancier than he did when he started. He just does it better. See, he has refined and gotten the drama out of his coaching philosophy faster than his competitors. Dabo Swinney has figured that out as well. Kirby Smart is figuring that out. Greg Popovich, San Antonio Spurs, is figuring that out. A philosophy gives you a route, and it gives you a process to rely on when it gets hard. And I know what's going to happen. You're going to say, yeah, I know it's important, but. But they don't build statues for people who come in second place. They don't build statues for people who don't do a great job. And you say, I don't want a statue. Okay. What are your players saying about you? You want to know if it's important? See, there was a post that was put up on a golf forum last week that said, what do you call yourself, a teacher or a coach? And my answer was, I don't care what I call myself. What I care about is what my students, my clients, my professionals call me. I don't want them to call me unorganized, flying by the seat of my pants, and hoping to win and succeed. I want them to call me somebody who is prepared, that is structured, and is consistent to manage. I just see a coach that just jumped on here, and I know, Coach, if you that just jumped on, Coach Shaw, I know you probably have a philosophy written down. If you don't, do it today. You write down your philosophy, not for when it's easy and you're winning with great talent. You have a philosophy written down on how to develop every player into a great talent player. See, we have a philosophy written down like it's the navigation guide of ships that are going out in the harbor, that they have a dream of where they're going. They have a vision and a plan of where they're going and how to get their team there. And so what happens is you write all this stuff down and you lay it all out. And then you run with the season. And during the course of the year, as you continue to get more and more information, you keep adding stuff to it. You know, I saw this great video. I read this great book. I was at a coaching seminar and heard this powerful speaker. And if you're not listening to YouTube videos and podcasts and audiobooks on your way to work and home and taking notes, you think you're going to remember that? Look, your mind is going to remember on average 7 plus or minus 2, either way. So between 5 and 9 items of your day, of a book you read or anything. And if you're not taking notes, that's going to erode because you're going to remember things like the color of the book and the title of the book and not remember the content. There's a great service called Evernote. Use it. Use your Apple Notes and take notes of things that you've read and say, look, I just read a 300-page book and these are the 4 pieces of content that I brought out of it. So you take that information and you add it to your philosophy journal. And then during the course of the year, you refer back to it on a regular basis. Like this journal, this philosophy guidebook doesn't sit on your shelf to show it to your recruits and your families. You use it to guide you to be better. And I would look at it every single morning. I would look at it and say, okay, it is June 10th. What do I need to do on June 10th to make August 15th better? What do I do on June 10th to make December 30th better? Or are you just going to allow the winds to guide you where you need to be? Can you imagine going out of a harbor in a ship with no navigational guide? No understanding how to work the engines? No understanding what to do if there was a fire in the engine room? Like coaches, here's one for you. If you coach in the college world, if you coach in the college ranks, you coach in the high school ranks, and you don't have a section on how to deal with parents, if you don't have a section with how to deal with Title IX issues, you're setting yourself up for absolute disaster. If you don't have a philosophy in place for how to replace your star player because they transferred out of your program, you're going to be caught exposed. You need to take that time in that journal and write contingency plans for everything. Now, I'm going to tell you this, okay? Don't have anything that will get you in trouble. So don't write anything down that can get you in trouble. So be filtered. But you're not going to get in trouble if you have the right stuff written down. What's up, Big Hud? Hope you're doing well, brother. Every competitor, every coach should have a philosophy of who they are written down. How do you deal with going on the road? Where to stay? What time you're going to eat? What time you're going to go somewhere? We got to reduce the drama that we have from our competitive life. But instead of waiting to wing it and relying on our talents as a coach and a player to just make it through, We got to get better in what we're doing. I don't like it when talent is the deciding factor. I like it when a system is set in place that allows the talents of your team, your players to shine. If you just allow talent to showcase, you're going to win 10 to 15% of the time. I want to stack the deck in your favor. A coaching philosophy, a playing philosophy, a leadership philosophy are all the same things. And as a coach, this is the time to sit down and lay it on the line. Are you ever going to regret being prepared? Are you ever going to regret investing everything you had in order to succeed? Or are you going to regret that you couldn't make the right decision when it mattered the most? See, we can't control the wins and losses of what we do. We can't. But we can put more things in our favor. And listen, I'm not on here questioning the character. I'm not on here questioning the vision or the plan. That's not what I'm doing. But there are things that I know from being around the best coaches in the world and working with the best players in the world of what it takes. And there are certain decisions that have to be made. Like when we sit with great leaders, many times there's a couple things that grab us. It's the idea that when it gets hard, we know where to go. When I was in college, we used to sit in on a Friday night at the basement of the dorm. And it sucked for those of us who had girlfriends because at 7 to 9 o'clock on a Friday night in the off season, we had to sit down and go through Yellow Book meetings. They were old, they smelled like stale coffee, and they had obscure content titles. Like, what is Standard Oil? What is a Hasselblad? And we go around the room and we'd all have these open. The pitchers and the catchers would be in one room and the non-athletes, the hitters, would be in the other room. And we'd sit around and we'd have a conversation. And coach would go around and say, all right, Scott Schultz, what does a Hasselblad mean to you? Yeah, coach, I don't know. Because, see, Scott was a freshman. But Rick Green, who was an All-American and a 1992 Olympian, would say, coach, a Hasselblad is a $10,000 camera that they used when they went on the moon for NASA. And they only took the best camera that had the best craftsmanship to have the best reliability, that when they had to take the shot that mattered, they had to know that the product they were taking was the best prepared for that moment. That's right, Rick. And we develop Hasselblads here. I don't need to risk going cheap on taking a cheap camera to the moon. I got to take the one that has the best craftsmanship and the best systems in place and the best processes to know under pressure which one is going to be the most effective. Okay, good. So now Scott Schultz heard it. But see, Scott Schultz heard it as a freshman, and I heard it as a redshirting freshman, and we learned it from Rick Green, who learned it from Chad Auger and Paul Bird, who learned it from Ben McDonald, who learned it from Stan Lower, and all the way down the line. And when the ball game mattered the most, I could draw on years and years of research and years of theory and years of understanding in order to make it work. I see Scott Fawcett has joined me on this. Scott, your decade program is based on years and years of theory and understanding, exactly like the Hasselblad, the Yellow Book meetings that I was in. That's why I love the Scott Fawcett decade approach. It's up to the player to take that information and filter it to make it work for them, just like I had to do. When I'm standing out in the mound in the bottom of the ninth inning with 2 outs, runners at second and third and a full count, I didn't think, oh, God, I wish I had a Hasselblad. You know what I said? I am a Hasselblad. I am ready for this, and I'm ready to compete. But that happened in the hours when people didn't want to be there. Because if my coach didn't have a philosophy, we didn't have those meetings. And if we did have the meetings, they were unprepared. But my coach had a philosophy that said, I prepare my players off the field as much as I prepare my players on the field. So when it mattered, I had the highest winning percentage in the history of college baseball in high-pressure games. Skip Bertman never lost a clinching championship game. I want to say he was somewhere around 21-0. When he could win a regional, a sub-regional, an SEC tournament, or a national title, he was undefeated. Isn't that what you want? Isn't it what you want is to be that good? Then build a system and a philosophy that you can stand on. Let me poke holes in it. Let your colleagues and your critics poke holes in it. But you know what? It's easier than poking holes in failing programs. I'd rather have a program in place that I know can drive success than one that's just up to the consequences and the circumstances around me. If you don't have a coaching philosophy in place, you're going to struggle. Sorry. And if your progress and your process isn't getting better and better, and you're not surrounding yourself with better and better coaches and better leaders, and not taking people out to dinner and having a conversation with them. If I'm a player on the PGA Tour, I'm finding the best of the best, and I'm going to sit down with them and have drinks. If I'm a coach, I'm calling the best of the best, and I'm saying, can I come spend a day with you? If 3 say no, 1 will say yes. Find them. If I'm in my industry, I'm out there reaching out to people everywhere I can to find how to do it better. Nothing is new in this world. It's just being done better. So build your philosophy, and over years, you'll look back after 10 or 15 years of your success, and you're going to have 10 and 15 years of your coaching philosophies lined up. And what will happen is you're going to get better and better at the application and the execution of your philosophy. And as a result, I will guarantee it that your performance of your players will continue to skyrocket. But if you allow the circumstances to define it, then you will fail. Please let me know if I pissed you off. And if I have, what are you going to do about it? I'll see you guys next week.